Welcome, everybody, to Fix My Hog's live event. I'm your host, Nate Beck, and today we are here with Lance and Galen from Two Lane Life. If you guys do not know what Two Lane Life is, check them out on YouTube. They're basically moto vloggers who are living the dream that all of us want to live, riding around their countries from the seat of a Harley Davidson, and we have them here today to chat about that dream, a little behind-the-scenes peek. So, Lance, Galen, how y'all doing today?
Good. How's
Hey
it going?
Nate, how are you, man?
Super good, man. So I'd like to just start at the very beginning. Where are you guys from? How did you get into Harleys? All of that.
Well, first of all, thank you for having us. We appreciate this opportunity. I'll start a little bit. We've been riding together. We've been friends for over 30 years. Our wives work together in a pediatrician's office. And as we got a little bit older and our kids, come into the situation, we kind of separated. We would just see each other at functions for the office. And as the kids then got older and we both started exploring kind of the Harley Davidson scene, we were at a party and we talked and realized that he rides a Harley and I'm riding a Harley. And so that was about 6 or 7 years ago. And Lance and I would do kind of the normal Southern California runs. We'd go to Neptune's, we'd go for a day run, but we always found, after every trip, there was something, that we wanted to do that was more. And so eventually we'd go overnight. And then we kind of started drawing a circle around Southern California out 500 miles because we knew we could at least go 500 in a day. And that took us to many different places, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, all over the western states. And we would come back with these incredible stories about these towns that we were in and the ride that we went on. And we always tried to get off the highway or freeway and get onto highways or 2-lane, roads and take the back roads into places. And our kids would tell us, you guys need to capture this. And for us, it was just capturing with pictures on an iPhone.
Sure.
And, a year ago, we decided we formed a company called Two Lane Life. I had retired basically from the financial industry. Lance is still working at a company that he owns today called Setwear, where he does gloves and tool pouches and packs for those that are in the industry, for the filming industry, gaffers, grips, all those dudes. And I was getting bored, and we were going to do something where we were just going to go out and help support those that supported us through sprint vans and build bikes and go show dealerships, the parts that we run. And his son, Lance Jr., said, "You're crazy. You guys should, take this opportunity and start your channel." And we did. And wow, what a year it's been for us.
Yeah, but in the beginning, we would go on these rides, and we'd go, even if it was snowing or raining and bad weather, and we're challenging ourselves, and it was like we're doing all this cool stuff. So basically, even though we vlog our trips, we were going on trips, challenging ourselves, having all this fun. So now we're documenting it, but we're still doing the same trips, but sharing it with everybody. So it's a cool thing. But when we first started, if we went from LA to Kingman, Arizona, which we do in no time now, that was like, okay, we'll get to Kingman and we'll spend the night. It was this big ordeal. Now it's like Kingman. That's like, we'll get there for breakfast.
Right.
Well, I think that's kind of what's so cool about, when people start traveling on Harleys is like your first trip could only be like, 300 miles. And it's just like this grand adventure for you. And then once you start putting down miles, like how many miles do you do per year, do you guys think?
We kind of think between 50 and 60. We just bought a Road Glide. I bought a Road Glide in September, and it has 17,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
It's hard to say as well. We probably, you've heard of the 1,000-mile
challenge
deal. The Iron Butt Challenge. We do that pretty much on every trip, so that we've never done the challenge because we kind of feel like we've done the challenge already. And
sure,
our wives have done 680 miles with us on a day.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and I think sometimes people get a little too wrapped up in mileage and they don't like stop and see the sights along the way, which is what I love about all your episodes is because it's showing, it's stopping at the diners and it's stopping at the little towns and it's stopping
Absolutely.
and showing. So you said you just got a new road glide deal?
Yeah, I had a Street Glide CVO, and I broke a spring and threw a valve. We
Sure.
fixed the top end, but it mind tripped me. It's like what's going on in the bottom end of that thing, and so we were heading out on a long trip, and I'm like, I gotta change it out. I don't have time to rebuild the bottom end, and so I ended up buying a 2020 Road Glide Special, a scorched orange. It's a really pretty bike, and she's got about 17,000 plus miles on her in 5.5 months.
Loving it. That's so cool. So, how did you guys like when you originally got into motorcycling? How did you find the Harley family?
Well, we found it separately. I mean, I had a Road King, my very first bike I got in 2008, and then I upgraded to a Street Glide. But he had a Road King as well. And when we first started riding, he was on his Road King, and so we kind of found it ourselves. Me personally, I'm like, I was a kayak racer and I did whitewater, and I'm like, what am I going to do? My son's dirt biking, and I'm kind of in the moto world. And one of the fathers that was racing with us said, "You need to get a Harley." And I'm like, "I'll never be on the street. A
Excuse me.
street bike? No way." So he talked me into it, and I got it. And the second I had it, I just never stopped riding. And then when Galen and I found out we both had Harleys, even though we knew each other, it was on.
Yeah, I kind of grew up on two wheels. We were a very moderately income family, and my father's choice for us for vacations were really camping and hunting and getting on two wheels. And so I had a Strider before a Strider was even known, at the age of probably 4, and it was a push thing that he built with two wheels, and it helped us for balance on our motorcycles as well as our bicycles. So I was a dirt rat for a long time. I ended up buying a Yamaha Midnight Maxim when I was like 17 years old. That was my first entry into the street scene,
Okay.
and it was dope. I thought I was, pretty rad. Um, and then I sold that, and I ended up back on dirt again with my son. And I always knew that I wanted a Harley. I waited until the kids were a little bit older, and that I could actually get out and enjoy it. So my first, entry into it was I went over to a dealership and I said, I'm going to do this. And James, the sales guy at See Me Harley, talked me into this beautiful candy root beer two-tone Road King, and he said this is the best Harley to get on for an entry level. It's balanced well. You're going to love it. And man, I sure wish I had that bike still. I got rid of that a couple years later, and went into this kind of the CVO space on the Street Glide. But I always knew I wanted to ride a Harley. I mean, I used to look at the motocross magazines. We didn't have digital back when I was growing up. So it was that feel of that paper and turning those pages and seeing the Harley, logo and brand. And at that time, it was also dirt.
Sure.
So I always knew that it's kind of the American thing for me, and I knew that that's the bike I wanted to run.
So back in the day, his father actually invented the Strider before Strider was even a thought.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Wow, that's cool. So it sounds like both of you guys have some background in dirt. So are you guys going to get a new Pan America?
We've thought about some cool adventures on it, but right now we kind of use our road glides as Pan Americas. Well,
Nice.
Yeah, there's some hill climb videos and some off road stuff that we've done on the big bikes, but it's interesting that you say that because there's a lot of noise around the Pan America today. Actually, on our live that we're going to have tomorrow, his son Lance Corey Jr., who runs Thrash and Supply, owns Thrash and Supply, was one of the few people that actually Harley asked to come out and ride the bikes for their content. So he's jumped it, he's ridden it on dirt, he's ridden it on pavement. So we're going to have him come on and talk about, how that bike felt, how it operated. He's one of the few that actually has really experienced it. But we're trying to get them to, give us one to go out and run on. It'd be fun to do that.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
you'd have to be careful with Galen though. He definitely would go crazy on it. But the thing about having Lance in on that is we've seen a lot of the Harley dealers talking about these bikes, and people are asking them questions, and all they can really share is the text sheet on what the
Right.
steps are.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Lance is going to come in and tell you what it happens when you do a 30-foot jump on it, or what it's like in the snow. And he has the real deal, the
Well,
real dirt on it.
Yeah, I mean, he talked about it on a thing that we were doing the other day, and it's, you don't realize there's a bunch of different settings that it has. I mean, the suspension's great. He's really going to go through it. He was pretty impressed by the bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy what they're coming out with these days. But so with you guys putting down so many miles on your bikes, I can't believe that they're stock.
Well, mine's not 100% stock.
Okay,
And
so
Galen's
let's-
other bike wasn't, but his is built the same way mine is now.
Sure.
Mine with the engine work, but I do have a built.
Mine is not stock. The only thing that's stock on the bike is the engine.
Okay.
We are going to build it. We've just, we have a group that we deal with, and they've been very busy with the bagger race, and but I think we'll get it built in the next month or so.
I mean, mine has fueling cams, lifters, beehive springs. It's been tuned, has a Cobra exhaust. It's got the Legend suspension. So it definitely has changed the level of my bike. And that build was done 60,000 miles ago. So all the parts that we put in it have been consistently great and strong.
Yep.
Nice. Very cool. So yeah, so let's go into that. So like if someone's thinking about like I want to do what you guys do,
Yep.
what order do they upgrade their bike in, and what are some of the common issues you have when you're upgrading that maybe you can, like, if I would have known this then you would have done differently?
Well, a couple things. One, our website at twolanelife.com, the original concept on that was just to put the parts that we run on our bikes, because we can talk knowledgeably about those. And we've tested, they're battle tested and proven. And to your question, though, so people can see what we run there. And then oftentimes we get this same question. But to answer your question, it kind of depends on the money one has. I mean, you
Sure.
could do a simple install if you only had $250 of a Clockworks windshield that we run on our road glides. We also ran them on the street glides, and that improves your ride. And that's a simple thing that you can also do. All you're doing is taking your screwdriver, and you're going to take the old windshield and put the new one on.
Yep.
If someone has some money and really wants to improve their ride, and we tell them this all the time. I mean, we run Legend suspension. It's a very midpoint, well-priced, American-made, great product that we have over 200,000 miles on that we've had no issues with. I would rather have someone do their suspension than do motor work. I mean,
Absolutely.
if you can keep your
Sure.
bike in the right gears and the right RPM, that motor is going to satisfy you for now, but improve your ride. And that suspension really drastically changes, in my opinion, the stock suspension. I mean, you don't bottom out anymore. You can hang in the curves. You've got this kind of just beeline around the corners. You don't have the front end dive anymore. It really helps set your bike up, especially if you go two up. It's my wife unsolicited in one of the vlogs. I ran the stock suspension all the way to Durango and back, and we were having dinner, and she said, "I really want my suspension back." And that was just her conversation. So,
Well, bolt-on parts too. I mean, they come stock with floorboards that are like rubber mount, and they move around. And when you put what we run, the Thrash and Supply aluminum, they're hard mounted handlebars with no rubber bushings. Everything metal instead of the rubber stuff. You feel the bike. Now you're like
Absolutely.
home with the bike. So it's like, so you have your suspension, the windshield, and these bolt-on parts, which most people can afford to do. And now you're feeling your machine and you're learning cornering and all the stuff you need, which improves the ride.
Yeah, and I think on that same point, I mean, there's 3 points that really effectively are on the bike, right? It's your butt. So if you got a better seat, which we run Saddleman Slim LSs, um, we find that those are a little bit firmer. So for the longer runs, you're not getting that back pain, and it's not so soft that you got to get off every 20 miles. So your butt's fixed to the bike, your feet. So the floorboards we run are not only does it improve performance, but it takes weight off the bike.
Oh yeah.
And then we've got our T bars, our riser setup. So our 3 points we feel pretty good about when we're riding.
I mean, you do the thrashing bars and the floorboards and all that setup, you're taking about 25
20
pounds
yeah.
off your bike.
Wow.
And it's solid, good stuff that doesn't
And
have
people
an
that
issue.
wonder,
Yeah.
do you have vibration? Do you have? And no, I mean
Yeah.
you step on the board and the bike actually moves versus it squishing.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. So did you guys have a background in working on bikes at all, or how did you get into that?
Zero for me. I mean, dirt bikes.
That's not true.
Well, yeah. Okay. So I worked a little bit on my son's dirt bikes through his racing career and
Right.
his freestyle career. So I had a little bit of that. And it's very important. And we always say this: wash your bike, do your oil change, do simple things on your bike yourself. So you get to know your bike. And if you're on the road and something happens, you might have a little bit of that knowledge to figure out what it might be, or,
I mean, simple things, even like air pressure.
yeah, air pressure in
Right.
the tire.
Like it's just become one with your bike and know it. So if you hear a
Yep.
rattle or you hear something going on, it's like my dad used to say, you walk by something in a camper and maybe a piece of molding's hanging off. If you don't go back and just tap that molding in,
Right.
eventually it's going to completely come off. And the thing, you just keep things nice and tight. And the oil change is a very simple thing to do, but it also makes you go through the bike and grab things and see is the shifter arm loose?
Right.
And it just helps you understand the bike.
And a real important key there is if you really dig your bike, I mean, you love it, you're always looking at it, you get off it, you look at it. So that makes you see things on your bike because you're digging it,
And when we do like motor work, we don't just give it to the guy to do the motor work. We wrench with them. We take the oil lines off. We do the things that we need to do to help. Now, I'm not going to profess that I'm a motorhead, that I understand all the compression, and I built engines with my father when I was young. I've been around tools. We have a guy that helps us on the motor stuff, but we're right there with him, learning and showing and growing and understanding what's going on within the bike.
I mean, we can take the wheels off, we can put the brakes, we change our brakes
Right.
ourselves, rotors, simple things,
Yep. So
What we
factory
like about
service
you
manual.
guys- What's
Sorry?
that?
I said so. Factory service manual. First
Yep.
off,
Yep.
I know a lot of our listeners love to log on to Fix My Hog to figure out how to do something, especially if they're doing it for the first time, because we offer a lot of like video tutorial and that kind of stuff. But I mean, to your point, Lance, I think that when you start to work on your bike, even if it's something as small as like an oil change, or maybe Galen, you had talked about the Clockworks windshield, the little stuff like that, and it's, for me, it was a rabbit hole, because when I started, it was like, I did like a seat, handlebars myself, oil change, some trim, and then a year later I was building a chopper from the ground up. Like, it was
Right.
just a whole rabbit hole that I just fell in love with, like working on my own bike and my own stuff,
Well, we have to maintain our bikes a lot because we put so many miles on them. So
Oh, absolutely.
we're always changing oil, we're always doing this. We're really in tune with our machine.
Well, and also, you guys ride out into areas that if you get in trouble and something happens, it's not like AAA probably can't be there before sunset.
Right. Well,
Have you
we've had
guys
a
ever?
couple-
Yeah, have
got a
you guys
couple
ever
times on the way.
experienced?
Yeah. Oh, totally. We've had a couple times on the way to Sturgis when we've had bigger groups,
Sure.
and it happened two trips in a row where an exhaust might crack, and half the guys go into town and find a guy that has a welding shop, and usually in small towns, they'll open up and work with you. And half us are sitting on the road and getting texts from the other guys going, well, we're waiting, but we're over at this bar, we're playing pool. And we're like, that's great. We're on the side of the road with grasshoppers and ants. So hurry up,
So what he's referring to is we were on our way to Sturgis, and just outside of Idaho Falls, Idaho, we had a pipe break. I'm from kind of that area, so I knew Idaho Falls. We got on the phone. We found a welder. We strapped the pipe onto the back of my bike, and three of us took off. And we got to the welding shop, and we had a welder with us as well. Didn't want him to come in and weld. He said he would take care of it. It's so sorry, I have a little bit of a cold, but so in the meantime, what are we supposed to do? Just sit on the curb and wait?
Yes, you're
No,
supposed to
we
suffer just
found
like
out
us.
that there was a bar with a pool table, and we went down the street and had a couple cold ones. Came back, the pipe was welded. Now, I must admit, it was probably 90 and very humid. So by the time we got back, it was probably an hour and a half. We did stop and pick up a 12-pack and took that with us. When we got there, all the boys had their shirts off on the side of the road, and they were all on their phones, and they were begrudgingly happy to see us. But once we pulled the beer out, they were like, "Oh yes, we're stoked."
Thanks for leaving us on the side of the road, but here's beer.
Right.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean,
But,
like, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so have you ever had to make your own roadside repair?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few times we carry a tool pack with us, and when we go in the bigger groups, I carry a larger tool pack. The one we normally carry has, some box wrenches, a crescent wrench, pliers. You got a kind of a roll up about this size.
Sure.
Ties for sure. One of our buddies always carries the baling wire. And yeah, we've had to repair on the side of the road and limp into places. We had some saddlebags go down on a Dyna that we had to fix, and the bracket broke, and so we had to bale wire that up. We've had some situations where, and it was last year, which was really cool. We had a guy that had a battery tender or charger, and we had a battery go down, and we took the seat off. We put that battery charger on that battery to get the bike started and running. And the guy rode for about 20 miles standing up until we got into the town where we could find a battery for him.
I mean, usually it's small stuff, but I mean,
Yeah.
one time we were going through, what was it, Wolf Creek Pass in Colorado, and my 2014 Street Glide all of a sudden turned into a crop duster where it was blowing white smoke out the back. Well, it turned out to be one of the oil's dripping out of the air cleaner,
The breather.
because one of the breathers was burnt out. But
Sure.
I cleaned it all off and got it all to the next town where I changed the oil to give thicker, newer oil. And that helped out for the rest of the trip,
But when we got home, we had to take the top
Right.
off and replace there was a little filter that they use. They don't use those. They're now encased, but there was a little filter that was burned out, and had to replace that.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Well, I know, Lance, you just picked up a tool roll, so let's get into some of like what you guys carry with you on the road in your saddlebags. How do you prep this stuff?
Don't carry much, like Galen said. When we go on bigger trips, he does. But like, I don't know if you can see, this is very simple, but it's got a few things in it. I would suggest for anyone to walk around their bike and look at what the most common bolts or things that might come off, the bolts that hold the air cleaners, and then just grab them. And you might have everything you need. All of a sudden, you might be on the road and go, whoa, I wish I had this. But honestly, with the way we service our bikes, and we always try and keep them upgrade, we hardly run into points where we're not on old choppers with things falling off all the time.
Yeah, most of the time it's the older bikes.
Yeah.
We haven't had a lot of trouble with the newer ones. There has been issues documented out there around heads that are leaking, oil that's coming out of the breathers on some of these newer M8s, but mostly it's FXRs or Dynas that we've had issue with. But you can see, I mean, there's zip ties, there's a mini socket. I recommend this, 6-into-1 or whatever it's called. So you got the,
Oh, yep.
it's so simple. And if you can keep things kind of at a minimum, it's got your stars, it's got everything that you need on your Harley. And then you've got kind of the box wrenches, any from a, 1/4 inch up to maybe 5/8 if you need to pull that oil plug. Typically a pair of pliers, channel locks, Allen wrenches. But to your point, you can get a pretty good idea by checking out what your bike has and the type of wrenches that you can bring.
Well, like if I didn't have, I have all ARPs on my bike because
Yep.
it's built, so everything was replaced. Well, if I just used someone else's toolbox and they didn't have ARP, 12 point, sockets and things, I'd be in trouble. So I got to kind of carry the 12 point, but I'm very light on the tools. He usually carries more. We've been very fortunate though on the road.
Yeah, I carry a tow rope. They laugh at me. They don't think I'm funny.
Do you actually carry a tow rope?
Heck yeah, I do.
That's the last trip we did. He did want to tow Luke's bike, and Jeff Seabear's like, no, let me just get next to him. I'll put my foot on his peg and I'll push him to the next off ramp.
Yep.
Hey, I've been towed around by my father. I know what's going on.
That's awesome. So you said you carry more tools on long routes. How do you pick your routes?
We throw a dart at the board and then we just go.
Well, I would tell you that the last year has been kind of a retracing of many of the rides that Lance and I had done in prior years.
Sure.
So now this year, and that was primarily West Coast. We did venture out on Route 66. We did Santa Monica to Chicago. We did a Texas loop. We were in Milwaukee as part of that Route 66. We do need to keep working our way east. And so this year we focused on, can we get up to the East Coast in September? Can we do a Liberty Bell tour in October? So we kind of think about, places we'd like to go.
Sure.
But with that being said, we think about places we want to go and we kind of plan it. And then as soon as we hit the road after the first night, it's kind of an unplanned deal. And we go where we feel like, oh, did you see that? Or you see that? Or now it's such a bizarre thing. We have enough of a following where we'll get DMs from people saying, hey, I saw you on route whatever, or
that's cool.
You should turn left and go to this place. And we've done it actually. So,
but we usually have an idea of where we're headed. And so, people ask us all the time, what software are you using? What mapping are you using? We just look at Google Maps. We probably need to be a little bit more sophisticated than that as we grow this thing. And we usually have, at least the first night, we know where we're going, and we may book a hotel or a camp spot or what have you.
Sure.
But after that, all bets are off, to his point. So we were headed to Mount Lemmon down in Arizona, and we had one of our subscribers text us and said, hey, I saw you. You're right outside of Tortilla Flat. You need to go check this place out, and it's worth the ride. And we ended up meeting a guy that owned the town. And so we changed our whole ride plans. We didn't even get to Mount Lemmon. He told us to go a different way, and we are very familiar with Arizona. We went up through the Salt River Canyon that we had never seen, and it was spectacular the next day. And so, to your point, we know where we're headed, but we may not get there. We may have a detour that takes us a different place.
Well, we know where we're headed, and we know where we're going. Most of the time,
going home,
we get A and B right.
Sure.
But if we're in the middle, it could change. But we love that, and it's really an interesting thing, and we're both kind of blown away with it now. And for the last 10 trips that we've been on, every single city we're in, 2, 3, 4 people either ride up, walk up, they know us, they want to meet us, and then they want to share their territory. And it's like this whole thing that's changed. It's great though. We love it,
That's super cool. You've started to create your own little moto culture.
Yeah.
It only just breeds more people and inspires more people. And speaking of people, we have a guest question that just came in that totally ties into long routes. Ken asks, in your travels, do you carry any kind of first aid kit or small fire extinguisher?
No fire extinguisher, but I do have a small first aid kit for sure.
Right.
And actually, he got a bee stung him, and I was able to give him a bee sting swab that
Right.
helped take the pain away.
Right. Now, on the fire extinguisher side, I have insurance on my motorcycle, so if it catches on
I'm
fire,
running like hell.
I'm going to run like hell. I'm going to let it burn, and I'm going to get a new one.
And you're not riding old choppers, so the chance of
Right.
it, being lit ablaze is a little bit lower.
Right.
So when you are going on these long routes, so we've got the tool roll figured out. What else are you guys putting in your saddlebags to prep you for, like, those 1,000-mile days, 2,000-mile trips, going out east?
Well, I know that the more we go and the longer we've been doing this, we're starting to pack lighter and lighter. But usually for me, it's socks and underwears and T-shirts for every single day. I wore the jeans the most of the time, and I could some layers.
I don't wear clothing.
You got that big fairing on the front of your seat. You're good.
Yo, this is great. It kind of depends on the time of the year. We like to layer. We don't wear, chaps or leathers or anything typically.
Kevlar?
We do have a jacket that we've been running and testing that's coming out by Thrash, and it's got a Kevlar base to it, and it's a really cool. It's called the Atlas. It's a really cool jacket. It also accepts the armor if you want it on your. So, but we had not typically run Kevlar until this jacket, but. We do layer a lot, so we'll bring some rain gear depending on, like, if we're going to Sturgis, that's an automatic.
Oh yeah.
Because, and we know when we travel Midwest and West, there's going to be lightning and thunderstorms and rain, so we do that. In the winter times here, we tried out this year a Dickies kind of onesie coverall thing. That was great. Sweet. Like,
we looked like farmers, but we were warm.
I'll admit, the coveralls I've done quite a lot of riding up north, and the coveralls are the way to go.
But also, you got to take a payday candy bar and some beef jerky.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh yeah. Oh yes. So, how do you guys capture your rides? Because I think that's one of the, especially when you're talking about like your YouTube audience. YouTube is a platform, obviously, that anyone can upload a video to. It's a very busy place for someone to break out into. And I think something that stands out on Two Lane Life is not only the fact that you're going to all these amazing places, but you're capturing them, the footage you're getting, the riding footage, the voiceovers, all that kind of stuff. The production quality of your show is top notch. What do you use to capture it?
Our first two vlogs were actually iPhone only. Then we're like, we should get a GoPro. And then we got a GoPro. Then
GoPro 8.
Yeah, we each have a GoPro for the helmet. Handheld, we do a lot of handheld stuff. Josh, he has a GoPro 9, a Sony, and a drone. So we're always capturing each other.
And I would just say we've had a lot of questions lately because I think we've, with Josh's knowledge of us and the growing with us over the year, and what we really want to put out as quality content is more cinematic. We get a lot of comments around, why are you guys scripting this? And we don't. It's really just us in the moment, and we try to keep it that real. So there's not like 5 takes that we're trying to make something.
Never.
And you'll see, we'll even comment in the vlogs and say something like, this one that's going to drop today, that's dropping today. I call this guy that's he's a guy that came into this town, Fred Coleman. I called him a panhandler, and he was panning for gold. I mean, but we don't take that out. It's just us being real. So we make mistakes, but I think that gives the credibility to the channel. And then you have kind of these epic shots. We don't recommend it for everyone to ride with one hand and put the GoPro every place.
Yeah, don't do that.
We don't. That's just our vibe and our style, and we're comfortable. Us riding together for the amount of years we've ridden together, we ride side by side all the time. We trust each other. We know where the bikes are going. We don't recommend that for everyone. We get comments on that too, but it's just our style. And so, yeah, we use these GoPros. Like, that just was a game changer for us.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We'll be on a 2-lane out in the middle of nowhere, and he might be on the yellow line, across the yellow line. We kind of move around, and we'll get comments from people like, you shouldn't do that. You cross the line. And I hate it when bikers do that. And we're like, if you look in the video, no one's around for miles. We wouldn't do it unless we knew we could do it. It's like,
Right.
just look at what you're watching. We're not encouraging anything. This is how we ride.
And we would do that years ago.
Right.
Like this is not a new thing for us. And we're not just like, we're trying to kill ourselves to get a shot. Quite frankly, we want to live and ride. Like
Well, and I think sometimes it comes down to safety too, because there'll be times when I'm out riding and you can see the whole, especially if you're on like a 2-lane, you said, and if there's some really bad potholes and tar snakes and all that kind of stuff in the lane I'm in, I'll scoot over the line if I can see it for the next 5 miles down the road, no one's coming, to avoid some hazards.
I don't like those tar snakes.
Oh, no. Yeah. Especially when the morning they're cool, so they don't really affect you. And then by like noon, 2, 3 o'clock, they've had the sun beat on them all day and they get all squiggly. Have you guys ever had close calls? I mean, I would assume you've had.
No, I don't, nothing where you were heart pounding in my memory of like, oh, I can't believe that. Oh my God. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, we've had a few close calls.
But nothing that scared. I don't know. What?
I mean, I'll give you an example. I like to ride dirt, so I took my street glide off on this dirt patch, and it had been raining the day before, and it was nice. I could just rip, and I was flying down, and all of a sudden the roads started coming to an end, and I had a choice to take off the berm and jump into the street and kill myself, or take it into a mud puddle. And
so that was a self-inflicted.
And luckily I took it in that mud puddle and it stopped me. But no, we've had some close calls where cars aren't paying attention,
Sure.
And, I mean, we try to ride defensively as well. Like we look, and out here in particular in California, we split lanes.
Yeah.
So there's people that will crowd you, and there's people that are on their cell phones and they're looking down. So we tend to look through the back windows a lot to see where the head position is.
We ride fast, we ride aggressive, but I think in a way of a safer way to never be around vehicles that could get you in trouble.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's typically the closer calls are when we're in maybe larger groups and we're trying to pass on a 2-lane and the whole group goes and maybe the last guy shouldn't have. And
sure.
But we all try to be careful, and we use a lot of signals. We'll either ride out in the lane to say it's still clear or thumbs up down the line. We try to hand signal guys to make sure that we're as safe as possible.
Well, usually if we're in a big group and someone goes for the pass, let's say Galen's up front and he goes out to pass, he'll usually stay in that lane until
sure.
If he can. If not, like, move over,
Yeah. So, you guys have obviously started to create this community, like you said, when you meet people all over the place. For people that are trying to do what you do, whether it be the whole video aspect of it too, or even just get out on their Harley Davidsons and ride more, what is what advice would you give to someone who is like the weekend rider, putting down maybe 200-300 miles a weekend and just dreams of getting out there and seeing life like you guys do? What advice do you have for them, personally and for their bikes?
Well, I mean, we started this channel not to talk about our bikes and parts. We started it more around travel and experience, and we're riders that ride, and that's kind of the theme. So I don't care if you're on a Harley or if you're on a Ducati, if you're on a Yamaha. And I think part of what's gone on the last year has been actually a really good thing for the motorcycle industry, because people have finally experienced they need to get outside and outdoors and go see different sights. And there's been more people dusting off their bikes this last year and getting out and experiencing what we experience as riders. There's nothing like going through an orange grove and smelling the blossoms, or a cilantro field that's been freshly cut. You don't get that in your car. And
Or
so
smelling a storm coming in.
smelling a, yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Like, so the advice I have for people is start out with 20 miles, start out with 50 miles. And then, you know, this is a little long winded, but my wife didn't really want to ride on the back of my Harley with me. I bought her a helmet. And as you grow, as you have children, you tend to focus more on the children, and your marriage not suffers, but you don't pay attention to each other as much. Well, finally, she decided to jump on the Harley with me. And that led us to reconnecting with each other because I would call her on Friday and say, pack a bag. She'd say, where are we going? I don't know, but we'll figure it out. And we'd go spend a weekend somewhere. And it really reconnected us. And so that's the vibe that I think with people, whether you connect with the outdoors, whether you connect with a town you go to with travel, with your spouse, with your friend, make that connection happen. It's because if you don't, life just passes you by. You can make time at least once a month or every other month to go do something fun.
And we've had people from around the world on our live sessions: UK, Brazil, Australia, Egypt, and they're saying from watching our videos, they are getting their bike out and they're trying to do little rides.
That's
So
awesome.
it's inspired them, and when they tell us they're inspired, we get inspired. But I would say for people to get on their bike, go to the beach, go to the mountains, go to a friend's house, and then if you have your music playing in your ear and the great songs on, but you're passing where you might want to stop, just keep going, see what happens. It's going to change your life and make you want to go more.
Absolutely. We have another guest question here. Ken asks, do you use any kind of communication units? And I'm going to expand on that and say, if you do, what are they?
Well, our communication for probably the last 5, 6 years was we just knew what we were talking about. The last year and a half, we've been using Lexan.
Okay.
Currently, we're on a Lexan G16. So that's how we effectively communicate. I don't really even listen to my stereo on my bike anymore. I just put all through the device, and it seems to work out pretty well.
Very nice. We have we got a Facebook question here. Steve asks, what are your guys' favorite roads?
2 lanes to nowhere. Anything that has a 2 lane and it's taking you through, it could be anywhere. We love the desert. I love the desert. I love the mountains. And when you go far and you go through 7 different terrain changes,
Yep.
and so I like it all, whether it's the pines, the sand, the desert. It's hard to say.
It's really, we've been on so many great, 2-lane roads like Escalante, Utah. There's this backbone that you fall off on either side. If it's just this road on the top of this mountain, and that's pretty gnarly. The 49 up in
Oh yeah,
kind of Northern California, Kit Carson Pass. I mean, there's just so many great places out there. But the point I would say is look at the map and then look off the interstate and see if you can find a road that parallels or gets you there. Maybe it takes you an extra hour to go, but follow that road and you'll find gems out there that you never even knew about.
and that was one great thing about doing Route 66. I mean, yeah, you'd have to jump on the 40 once in a while, but we were finding all the 2 lanes and broken down roads. We were on roads that went from asphalt to dirt,
Yeah.
and then we had several miles of dirt, and we're going, now we're Pan American. Yeah. So it's like, just find offshoot roads.
Sure.
I mean,
Absolutely.
there's a lot of roads that are famous out there, the Tail of the Drag and stuff that we haven't done. We went down and did the Twisted Sisters in Texas a few months ago, and they're great, but I can tell even out our back door here, if you go down Mulholland and Canaan and some of these canyons that we have here up in Ojai, the 33, I mean,
I used to live in Ventura, and I
Yeah.
loved the 33 and the 150.
yeah.
Casitas Pass back in there.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, we're lucky because we can be up in the mountains, and a few hours later we're down at the beach, and
Yep.
we're and we're basically year-round riders, so we're blessed with that out here. But
I mean, that's the thing about Death Valley as well. You could be 250 feet below sea level on a 2-lane, and an hour later you're 5,000 feet up in Beatty.
yeah,
You know,
Yep.
so it's cool stuff. And then you're in a t-shirt, and then you're in a flannel, and then you're in a jacket, all in the same couple hours.
And this goes right back to packing
yeah,
bringing what you need.
Yeah.
Yep. So, guys, upcoming rides and videos. What you got coming down the pipeline for us?
We have a great video launching today, right at 11. It's probably already launching now. We're in Julian. We're going down in a gold mine, and we're some great food. So that's a good one. But we're planning trips now. We have a board. We plan out like 12 months, and it's already switched around because of different things. But
well, like we were going to head to the north rim of the Grand Canyon. We've spent a fair amount of time on every other point there. We have not been to the north rim, but we just saw yesterday that it dumped 2 feet of snow over there. So we're going to have to probably change that to another month. We were talking about going to Escalante and getting that captured. We've got basically 9 really solid rides. We'll be out on the East Coast in September and October is our plan.
in June we'll be in Yellowstone.
June we'll be in Yellowstone. We'll be doing
Awesome.
yeah. We wanted to get up to Canada and go up to Banff and then come back down through Glacier National. I have a cabin in Yellowstone area, and come back down through Glacier National and check that out with the wives. But I think we're also going to do the Oregon coast and Columbia Gorge here as well. So pretty cool spots,
You know, it's interesting. We have Galen, myself, and Josh. We show up to the office every day, and we all come in on motorcycles.
Yep.
There's no one pulls in a car. In the rare occasion, yes, but we're mostly on bikes. One other thing that's great about if you're anywhere and you want to be inspired to ride, it's like a good movie. I'll watch movies a few times. So the point there is if you say, oh, I've already been up this road to this mountain. Well, every time Galen and I have been on the same road, and it's been a lot, we see new things.
Oh, yeah.
Everything changes, and it's always new. And when the weather's different, the sun's setting, the sun's coming up, it's always an ever-changing thing. So if you don't have a lot of roads around you, just take it anyway, because you're going to find new stuff.
Just go ride.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I know. It's crazy you guys are talking about having to reschedule things. With Fix My Hog, we do a lot of ride and rallies. I've done Miami to Key West, through the Rocky Mountains, up to Canada. And in June, actually, we're doing Minnesota to Daytona Beach cross country on my Sportster to prove that Sportsters are not bar hoppers.
No.
But originally, I had thought about planning the ride in April because I was like, oh, then it'll be like, the weather will be better. It won't be so hot yet. But then I remembered it would still be like super cold in Minnesota.
Right.
I just did a ride for Fix My Hog with Ride and Rally, and we rode Phoenix to the South Rim to Vegas.
Uh-huh.
And we did it in July.
Nice and warm.
A little warm.
That was pretty warm. That was
Well, to that point, we've been in Needles, California at 115.
Yep.
And the next day we're in Colorado, snowing on us.
Yep.
Yeah.
On
our way to Sturgis.
Yeah.
We had to jump in the cooler at the convenience store. They let us go in the walk-in. It was so hot. We were deranged. We were delusional.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I walked into a couple gas stations on that ride, and they just opened the ice chests and said, stick your head in, bud. I'm like, gladfully. So where can people find you guys on YouTube?
2Lane Life, right there. We also have a website, 2lanelife.com. We like people to go there because we have these blogs that we create. And within the blog, you click on the rides. We have also articles that are written. We have some other information. But if you click on the rides, it pulls up about the ride. It's a write-up that talks about the narrative of the trip, where we stayed, where we ate, has a map of the trip that we did. So if you want to go, and you don't have to be on a bike. You can be in a car if you want. But hopefully bikers are finding this. And it talks about points of interest, because we oftentimes see a gold mine or we'll be in a national park so it's a really cool write-up and a narrative that really explains the trip. And It also showcases kind of what we do on our website, which is we sell motorcycle parts and apparel, and we didn't really think that was going to be this really main thing but it's become such a great platform to talk about parts with people and advice, and we learn from people as well. They show up to the shop, but our store is growing. It's primarily Harley Davidson parts, but we are drag dealers, drag specialties. So we can get a metric bike, we can get side by side, we can get Indian, whatever the need is, and we'll build that site over the next year to include that. But it's pretty cool. It's been a great run. We're also on Instagram at 2 Lane Life, so people can really check that out. Do a lot of stories and reels
at Xerox 57
and
at Big Lance C. But it's really cool is now the studio that we have here is turned into a place where we've had several law enforcement people come here, bring us patches, and say they love our channel and they wanted to meet us and take a picture. We have people that just show up to hang out. We're like, let's make a coffee shop or a bar here or something.
Yeah, why not?
Well, it's the true fact is we often get people say you're inspiring us to ride. But the reality is it's quite the reverse. I mean, the comments that we get, and we get a few thumbs down. We were called rubs at one point, which is fun, and we don't care. We're just about good times and good vibes.
Do you know what that means, rubs?
I'm not familiar, and I wasn't going to ask.
Urban bikers.
Oh.
But then we had a guy that commented and said, then he must be a pub. Poor urban biker.
But the
people
point
have
is,
too much time behind keyboards.
they do. But we get more inspiration from people, and it inspires us to then go do rides because it's a great community that we're in. We've met so many new business owners, new guys and gals that ride their bikes, servicemen and women that are out. We've met so many people over the last year, over the last 5 years, but really the last year with this channel because people want to come up and share their story with us. And it's been awesome.
Man, I'm right there with you. Since we started doing the ride and rallies at Fix My Hog back in, I believe we started that in 2017, it's crazy the people you meet just on the road. And especially I've found when you go through the same town a couple times, you start, and then at rallies and shows and it's, I think, back when you said today that the coronavirus has inspired a lot of people to, get their bikes going again and get out and do that. I think that it's also shown people the importance of the motorcycling community,
right.
and whatever, and what we can do to help foster the community and help grow it that's what it's all about,
Well, two things. I didn't say those words. I said what has transpired last year.
Well,
just kidding. But the second thing is, what a great community we're in, and we've actually been on podcasts with MC clubs, and it's such a diverse group of people, but it's a group of people that really have commonality in play. I don't care your race, religion, what have you. If you're a rider and you understand what it means to ride, we have that in common. Yep. It's great to be out on the road. It's great to go to a restaurant. It's great to go have a beer, and it's a really cool community.
Yep, absolutely. Well, guys, I believe that just about wraps it up. I want to thank you guys so much for spending the time to hang out here and chat with us and give all of us a little insight into what you do, how you do it, and why you do it.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fix My Hog. It's an incredible place to be, guys. I mean, it's we looked at your stuff and we appreciate you, reaching out and having us on. But we appreciate what you guys do as well.
Well, thank you so much. Yep, we're all about helping people get their hands dirty on their bikes, get to know their bikes on the maintenance side of it, and then with all the ride and rally videos hosted on the site too, to help inspire like you guys, get out and ride your motorcycle. It's an amazing world out there, and it's even better.
Well, I always say this every morning: don't stop, won't stop, and see you down the road.
See you down the road. And with that, we'll leave it back to you guys. Thank you guys so much for being with us today. and we'll see you next time. Ride safe, wrench safe. I'm Nate Beck, and you're watching Fix My Hog.
See you down the road.
See you down the road.